Hello and welcome to part 4 of SE 310 Innoslate tutorials. I'm Lieutenant Lou and I'll be taking you through functional analysis. So functional analysis is about translating your system requirements that we generated last time into system functions that will meet your stakeholders' needs. The way we're going to do this is through functional flow block diagrams, also known as FFBDs. And what we'll also be doing with this is forming traceability relationships. So what that means is, if you remember our SE tenet of function begets form, essentially your system functions will satisfy your system requirements as outlined by your stakeholders. Now let's jump into the tutorial. So to get started with functional analysis, let's just begin with creating a single function in Innoslate. So from your dashboard, let's move over to database. And let's have a look at our requirements and we'll see which function we would like to create. So let's order our requirements by number. There we go. And let's create a function that satisfies R1, provide exercise equipment. So to do that, click on New Entity, and we're going to create an action. Okay, so let's number our action 1. It also aligns with our requirement 1. And we're going to name our function provide exercise equipment. That's a big part of a gym. And I'm just going to leave it at that for now. Let's click Save. Now, as you can see over in our left pane, we now have an action class. And this is it. We have a function called provide exercise equipment. And now remember that this is just a single function. It's not part of any sort of sequence or FFBD yet. We'll get to that in a later step. So now that we have created a single function, let's go ahead and create an action diagram, or FFBD, in Innoslate. So go over to Diagrams, and we're going to create a new diagram over here on the right. Yes, we will be creating an action diagram next. And let's give this diagram, also known as a root action, a name and a number. So let's number this 1, and this diagram will be perform gym functions. Now let's give a short description, and we'll say that this is a system level action diagram of gym functions. Next, it'll tell you congratulations and finish. Okay, so this is what your interface will look like. Over here on the left pane, you'll see a bunch of elements that you can click and drag into this diagram. I'm not going to do that for now. And you also can click and drag on existing entities. We just created this right here, widget numbered 1.1, provide exercise equipment. Let's go ahead and do that. Let's click and drag this function onto our action diagram for performing gym functions. Okay, so it auto-numbered it 1.1. That's the name that we're going to keep. And now we have one element on our FFBD. go back to new, and we're going to put this element in parallel with other elements on our FFBD, because our gym system is going to be performing multiple functions that aren't necessarily going to be in order, in a sequence. Okay, so here's one branch here, and let's drop down a new action onto our other branch right there. Innoslate has auto-numbered it 1.2, which is fine, we'll keep that. And we're going to say, instead of new action, provide change rooms. That's an important part of a gym. So now we have these two elements in parallel. To add another branch, click on this junction and add branch. Okay, so I actually have an existing element that I've created called provide hydration stations, and I'm just going to drag it onto here. So now we have 3 branches in parallel. Now, as you get familiarized with FFBDs on Innoslate through this tutorial, just remember that your Euchre's FFBDs are probably going to be a bit more complex than the gym system that I am modeling here, especially your system level FFBD. But as you can see here, I have things in parallel right now. You can add actions in series. You can add them in a loop. You can move existing actions into the loop, and etc. I'm going to delete these for now, since my system doesn't really need them. But this should be enough to familiarize yourself, and just remember that Innoslate is here for you to model essentially anything that you would model on a whiteboard, but now it's in a database that you can share with your teammates. Now, let's just say that I'm done with my diagram, and always remember to click Save. So as you're going through making your FFBD, you want to ensure that you're adding in traceability between your requirements and your functions. So let's do that. Let's click on 1.1, provide exercise equipment, and let's trace it back to the requirement which it stems from. So go over here on the left pane and make sure you're on the tab relationships, and it's not pinned, so let's go to all. Scroll down, and here we go. This is what we want, is this function satisfies requirement. Now let's add a requirement that it satisfies relate existing entities, since we've already loaded in our requirements from last time. Okay, and here is R1, provide exercise equipment. Let's click on that, click Save. And so now here you can see that this function satisfies R1. If you click on R1, it'll take you to the requirement itself. And if you look at the relationships over on the right, here we have it. This requirement is satisfied by this function, 1.1. So another way that you can create traceability between your functions and your requirements is from the database. So we're already in database. Let's go back. Oh. Database. And let's go over here to classes and filter by requirement. let's put these in order by number so it's easier for us to see. And we just made a function about providing hydration stations. So that links back to the requirement here. R6, water fountains. So click on that, let's open the entity. All right, so now we're at our entity view for requirement R6, and we want to say that we have a function that satisfies it. So satisfied by, over here on the right, let's add, and here we have our functions that we've created, and 1.3 is the one we want. Click Save, and there we have it. Provide hydration stations. R6 is satisfied by 1.3. And remember to always click Save. Now let's say that you want to expand your FFBD, in other words, create a nested FFBD. So, coming from this action diagram that we have here, let's go to provide change rooms. Let's open that element and let's create another action diagram from that action. Okay, so now this diagram is of the function 1.2, provide change rooms. Okay, so let's just do something very simple. As an example, let's drag parallel branches and let's create one action over here. You see that Innoslate has auto-numbered it 1.2.1, which is good. That's the type of formatting that we want to keep with our numbering system. Okay, and let's name this provide female change room. Okay, and let's do the same thing. And provide male change room. Okay, so here is your nested FFBD from 1.2. Remember to click Save. And so now, going back to our original FFBD, you can see that 1.2 at the bottom here says decomposed. And if you click on it, it'll bring you right to that nested FFBD. So in summary of what we've done so far in Innoslate is, if you remember this original tree relating our 4 SE elements of document, requirement, function, and component, we have completed the highlighted area of this triangle. So we have created and uploaded a source document into Innoslate, and that document was the source of our requirements, which we have just done today, satisfied by functions. And those functions are all referenced by the original source document that was provided to us, that the information in the document was provided to us by our customer.